Hello students, today we will discuss action of insulin at cellular level and tissue level along with its clinical utility. So in a normal cell, insulin binds to its receptors which then autophosphorylates on tyrosine residues. Phosphorylation of the receptor generates binding sites for insulin receptor substrates. Subsequent phosphorylation of insulin receptor substrate by tyrosine kinase activity of insulin receptor engages the insulin signaling pathway. This phosphorylated IRS binds to phosphoinositide 3 kinase PI3K and GRB2SOS, a complex with guanine nucleotide exchange factor. This phosphoinositide 3 kinase catalyzes the conversion of phosphatidyl inositol 4,5-bisphosphate into phosphatidyl inositol 3,4,5 triphosphate, which is a second messenger. Phosphatidyl inositol 3,4,5 triphosphate activates the phosphatidyl inositol dependent protein kinase PDK, which in turn activates several other kinases, most notably AKT, which is also known as protein kinase B. AKT affects the activity of various enzymes of metabolism, and GRB2SOS activates RAS in the ERK1 or 2 pathways, which alters the rate of transcription of certain genes. So this AKT facilitates translocation of GLUT4, which is a glucose transporter containing vesicles, to cell membrane, which leads to more robust absorption of glucose from blood. AKT also phosphorylates and inhibits glycogen synthase kinase GSK3, which inhibits glycogen synthase. Thus insulin leads to absorption of glucose from blood, activation of glycogen synthase, and enhanced glycogen synthesis. So how this insulin signal is down regulated? There are 3 different processes contributing to down regulation of insulin signaling. First is tyrosine phosphatase 1B, that removes phosphoryl group from receptor and inactivates it. Second one is PTEN, phosphatase and tensine homolog, that dephosphorylates PIP3, second messenger, to PIP2, which itself has no second messenger properties. IRS protein can be inactivated by phosphorylation on serine residues in place of tyrosine residues by specific serine threonine kinases, and these kinases are activated by overnutrition and other stress signals and may play a role in the development of insulin resistance. Another pathway for downregulation is SOCS protein pathway. SOCS is suppressor of cytokine signaling protein. This is a regulatory protein which interacts with insulin receptor and IRS1 and apparently facilitate their proteolytic degradation by the proteasome complex. So what is glucose transporters? The transport of glucose into cells is modulated by two families of proteins. One is facilitative glucose transporter, that is GLUT. GLUT are designated as GLUT1 to GLUT14 based on the order in which they were identified, and the other one is sodium dependent glucose transporters, SGLTs. SGLTs are of two types. SGLT1 and SGLT2. SGLT1 accepts glucose and galactose and is a 2-sodium 1-monosaccharide co-transporter. It is situated at luminal surface of small intestine, whereas SGLT2 accepts glucose, not galactose, and is a 1-sodium 1-monosaccharide co-transporter and situated in tubules of kidney. SGLTs use the electrochemical sodium gradient to transport glucose against its concentration gradient. Now facilitative glucose transporters. GLUT1 is present in brain, kidney, colon, placenta, erythrocytes, and its main function is glucose uptake. GLUT2 is expressed in hepatocytes, beta cells of pancreas, small intestine on basolateral membrane, and renal epithelial cells. It is low affinity high capacity transport system that allows non-rate limiting movement of glucose into and out of these cells GLUT3 is expressed in brain, kidney and placenta. And GLUT4 is expressed in heart and skeletal muscles, adipose tissue, and this is insulin dependent glucose transporters. GLUT4 catalyzes the rate limiting step of glucose uptake. When circulating insulin concentrations are low, most of the GLUT4 is localized in intracellular compartments and is inactive. After eating, the pancreas releases insulin, which stimulates the translocation of GLUT4 to plasma membrane, thereby promoting glucose uptake into skeletal muscle and fat. Muscles uses about 85% of the glucose ingested during a meal. GLUT5 transports glucose and also fructose and is expressed in a small intestine, kidney, skeletal muscle, brain and adipose tissue. So insulin sensitive facilitative transport takes place only in heart muscle, skeletal muscle and adipose tissue. The other transports, either active or facilitative in some tissues, are insulin independent. So insulin independent active transport takes place in epithelia of intestine, renal tubules and choroid plexus, whereas insulin independent facilitative transport of glucose takes place in erythrocytes, leukocytes, lens of eye, cornea, liver and brain. So this is the diagrammatic representation of postprandial metabolism of glucose and the effect of insulin on glucose in different tissues. So now action of insulin on carbohydrate metabolism. Insulin stimulates glucose uptake by the cells through GLUT4, especially in muscles and adipose tissue. It also stimulates glycogenesis in both the liver and skeletal muscles by activating glycogen synthase. Insulin inhibits glycogenolysis by inactivating liver phosphorylase. It inhibits gluconeogenesis by depressing the amount and activity both of pyruvate carboxylase, PEP carboxykinase and glucose 6 phosphatase. Insulin also promotes liver uptake, use and storage of glucose. So what is the action of insulin on protein metabolism? Insulin increases the translation of messenger RNA, forming new proteins along with transcription. It inhibits protein catabolism and decreases the rate of amino acid release from the cells. In liver, it decreases the rate of gluconeogenesis and thus conserves amino acids for protein synthesis. Insulin promotes the uptake of branched chain amino acids, leucine, isoleucine and valine, by muscle, stimulating protein synthesis. Thus, insulin and growth hormone act synergistically to promote growth. What are the actions of insulin on fat metabolism? Insulin increases glycogenesis, but when 5 to 6% of liver mass is glycogen, then additional glucose entering the liver is converted into fat. So fatty acids synthesized by liver cells are used by them for triglyceride synthesis. Insulin inhibits lipolysis by inhibiting action of hormone sensitive lipase. Thus triglycerides present in the fat cells are not metabolized to fatty acids. Insulin promotes glucose transport into the fat cells. This glucose is used to synthesize fatty acid. By stimulating acetyl coenzyme A carboxylase, and more importantly, to form large quantities of alpha glycerol phosphate. This supplies the glycerol that forms the triacyl glycerol after combining with fatty acid in the fat cells. Ketogenesis occurs when there is a high rate of fatty acid oxidation in the liver. But insulin inhibits fatty acid oxidation, and thus it also inhibits ketogenesis. Insulin has a general stimulating effect on protein synthesis, which favors building of muscle protein. It also inhibits intracellular degradation of proteins. So what are the clinical utilities of insulin analysis? The primary clinical application of insulin measurement is in the evaluation of patient with fasting hypoglycemia. Women with PCOD have insulin resistance and abnormal carbohydrate metabolism. That's why measurement of insulin was advocated by some of the clinicians in evaluation and management of PCOD. Although it is not clear whether insulin resistance by measuring insulin concentrations afford any advantage over clinical signs of insulin resistance, and those clinical signs are body mass index, acanthosis nigricans, etc. A few investigators recommend insulin measurement along with oral glucose tolerance test as an aid to the early diagnosis of diabetes mellitus. Insulin determination has also been proposed to be of value in selecting the optimal therapy for patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus, and also in classification of diabetes mellitus in type 1 and type 2. It also assesses the activity of beta cells. Evidence indicates that increased concentration of insulin in non-diabetic individuals are an independent predictor of the development of coronary artery disease. So there are few counter-regulatory hormones of insulin. These counter-regulatory hormones are catabolic and increase hepatic glucose production initially by enhancing glycogenolysis and later by stimulating gluconeogenesis. The initial response within minutes to low blood glucose is stimulated by glucagon and epinephrine. Over time, about 3 to 4 hours later, growth hormone and cortisol increases glucose mobilization. So glucagon is a 29 amino acid polypeptide and secreted by alpha cells of the pancreas, whereas epinephrine, also called adrenaline, is a catecholamine secreted by the adrenal medulla, appears to have a key role in glucose counter-regulation when glucagon secretion is impaired. Normally, it also stimulates glucagon secretion and inhibits insulin secretion by the pancreas. Growth hormone is a polypeptide secreted by anterior pituitary gland. It stimulates gluconeogenesis, enhances lipolysis, and antagonizes insulin stimulated glucose uptake. Whereas cortisol is secreted by adrenal cortex in response to ACTH, which stimulates gluconeogenesis and increases the breakdown of protein and fat. Other hormones that influences glucose metabolism are thyroxine and somatostatin. So the techniques most widely used for insulin assays are radioimmunoassay, ELISA, and isotope dilution mass spectroscopy. After an overnight fast, plasma insulin concentrations in healthy, normal, non-obese people must be between 2 to 25 micro international unit per ml. So this is all about insulin. Thank you.